be more than human.
Hello and welcome to the channel. My name is Joseph Carroll. I write under the pen name J.R. Carroll. And today I'm here to start a discussion, to ask a question. Why do we read fantasy? I've been watching a bunch of Booktube, um, as I do always, and I've been seeing videos pop up here and there lately about basically like what is reading, what should be in books and what shouldn't be in books. And it just got me to thinking, and if you know my channel, if you've watched several of my videos, you'll know that my main purpose behind reading is entertainment. And some of these videos that I've been seeing lately have kind of cropped up this question of why why do we read? And some of these, as I've listened to the discussions and stuff, and they're like, well, should certain things not be in books? You know, running the gambit. You know, what shouldn't be in books, what should be in books. And some of the points they were making, I felt, at least for me, were kind of off the track a little bit, especially for the type of content that we do mostly, right? And most of us, at least in this little corner that we have over here, is fantasy, right? And one of the things that I've heard pop up here is politics, right? And for the most part, you know, I try to stay out of politics because it's just a dirty business. But it crops up. Should politics, for one, be in books? Well, I don't think, a few of these people have, you know, brought it up, and they're like, well, of course. And here's the thing. There is no right answer. There is no wrong answer. We all have our own preferences, and that's okay. You can like politics in your stories. You cannot like politics in your stories. If you, and here, and here's the thing. If you don't like politics in your stories, don't read them. Just like if you don't like what's on TV, what's on Twitter, block it. Don't watch it. Don't read it. But if we're just talking about, fantasy in general, and my views on why do we read fantasy, I believe that fantasy, for the most part, is for entertainment. That's like saying the difference between fantasy and, like literary fiction. I think I think there's a generalness when you go in to somewhere, right? Like, if you're going into reading a horror book, you expect certain things, right? If you're reading a romance book, you expect certain things. If you're going to read a fantasy book, you expect certain things out of it. Well, in my general opinion, and maybe I'm wrong, I feel like it's probably the majority of people. When you step through the fantasy door, your whole goal, your main goal, is to be entertained. You're wanting to come into a world that is fantastical, and you want to be taken away. And, you know, I don't think that politics in general are a problem in being taken away in out of your everyday life. Because hell, I write politics in my books. You know, I mean, I've got vampire cabals and ancient agreements and all that cool stuff. But I think where a lot of people get turned off to politics is when you're in a fantasy world and you can feel the atmosphere of modern day politics start creeping its way into the book. And you're just like, I don't think that, especially if you're in a medieval setting, right? You can tell it's it may not be our world if it's not like urban or whatever. Like, my universe is our world no matter what time frame it is, it's our world. But, even if it's not our world, it's supposed to be medieval, and you can feel these modern day politics working their way into into the books. And you're just like, and for me, maybe I'm in the minority, but it's just like I don't want to see this, right? I get, and here's the difference. I AP, go watch his video. He does an amazing job. He's much more elegant and in his wording than I am. But he will tell you that politics has always been a part of of novels and all that. But the difference is not necessarily politics. It's the way politics is now. Has there always been bickering? Sure. But 50 years ago, 100 years ago, ancient times, politics was not in your face like it is now. You can't turn on the radio, turn on the TV, go on YouTube, click on Facebook, look at Twitter, without politics. Even if you try to block, somehow politics makes its way into your feed, and it's just like, especially nowadays, it's like we need an escape. We need an escape from modern day politics. When we close that book, politics is going to be there. Just let it, it's just like going to the movies, right? Going to that summertime blockbuster. We just want to go away for a couple hours without having to think about modern day politics. And I I'm not saying that we don't need to learn, right? Again, when we're reading, but again, that's another thing. You're going to learn something from reading fantasy, right? It's just whether it's vocabulary, whether it's history, geography, animals, you're going to learn something. But in my estimation, when you're reading fantasy, you're not there trying to learn things. You know, again, we're trying, you know, Russell Crowe, Gladiator, are you not entertained? That's what it's all about. It's all about entertainment. Now, that's not everybody. I'm not, again, this question is going to be answered a little bit differently by everyone who answers it. You know, some people are going to tell you it's all about the themes, right? Some people, that's it. Some people will tell you they want their politics in there, right? There are political thrillers, but I don't think most political thrillers fall under fantasy, right? And I feel like most of this type of stuff that's in our corner is about fantasy. And you'll have people who will tell you, well, if you exclude certain things, that's just as bad as including certain things, right? Or it shares the same weight, which to me is not true. It is easier and more forgiving if you excluded something from your story, because especially if you're a pantser, you're just writing and writing and writing and writing, right? And maybe certain things have nothing to do with your story, so there's no reason for you to have thought to bring those into your story. But there's definitely a weight and a conscious thought of adding something to your story. If you're trying to, it's conscious if you're trying to inject something into your story, right? It's not necessarily conscious. Probably very little consciousness if you don't add something to your story. So I'm just kind of summing this up is, why do you read fantasy? Do you read fantasy to be entertained? Do you read fantasy to learn? Do you want modern day politics in your stories? Do you not? Like, subscribe. I would love to hear your comments. What do you think? What do you think about fantasy? What is it to you? And I'll see you in the next one.